What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. I don't know how the fuck this keep happening when the audio is not playing. I don't know what's going on where it keeps doing that. I gotta start double checking these things. But anyway, this dude right here is the most spoiled so-called superstar. I mean, he is the face of everything that is wrong with the NBA product today. Everything that's wrong with it. You know, we keep hearing about how, you know what I'm saying, he is the exception to the rule of the spoiled coddled. He's not as bad because he was the first super coddled superstar. And everything has gotten worse. So by comparison, he looks better. But if this was 30 years ago, he would be the softest player in the NBA. So the Lakers, who have had the softest schedule in the NBA, have had stretches where they only play like a game every 3 days, or a stretch where they played 2 games in 6 days or a week or something. They got one stretch in March where it's pretty bad. You know, I guess he's looking at it and he sees they got to play a back-to-back March 13th, 14th, a back-to-back March 16th, 17th, and a back-to-back March 19th and 20th. And he's like, this is insane. Man, this is crazy. Which, by the way, could be a signal that he's going to load manage in them games. Look for that. He's going to come up with some mysterious foot injury that always surfaces around this time every year so he can take off conveniently those hardest of the back-to-backs. So don't be surprised if he don't play against the Bucks. You know what I'm saying? Somehow it's going to flare up against the Bucks. He can play that game. Then he might play, you know, he ain't going to play against Milwaukee and Denver again. You know, he might play Phoenix. I don't know. Definitely play San Antonio. But then it's going to flare up again. He's going to miss those last. Man, we know to play with this guy. We know what the deal is. Look, the NBA have the fewest amount of back-to-backs that they've ever had in the history of the league. I think LA has only had I think they're only going to have something like 10 or 11 back-to-backs this year. This is an NBA. This is a league that used to have, on average, teams in the 60s and 70s with 30, approaching 40 back-to-backs during the season. Okay? Hell, I remember in the 90s, they were still having back-to-back playoff games. And the players didn't complain about that because that's just what it was about. You get paid all this money. You're getting paid $50 million a year because you're so great, supposedly. What the fuck you think you're going to be expected to do? Play hard. These guys are so spoiled, man. And they cry about every little thing. If the schedule is so hard at this point, if you're complaining about this, then maybe you should retire. Because you've been low managing a lot lately. You didn't play in the All-Star game. You already had a stretch before that when you weren't playing. Aren't you the same dude that vowed to play all 82 games? And you put that on yourself? Nobody pressured you to say that. You put that out there. And then when you couldn't complete the task, then somehow you made yourself the victim. And, then it came like, oh, well, LeBron doesn't have to play all 82. Nobody told him to. Richard Jefferson, you light bulb head bitch. Nobody told him to do that. But look, let's compare him to a guy who was an actual real warrior in Wilt Chamberlain. This is from the 1961-62 season, the year that Wilt averaged 50. That's the year that he also averaged 48.5 minutes a night. That's insane. 48. That means he wasn't taking any breaks, really, except for maybe timeouts. Those were the breaks Wilt was taking. Timeouts. This is a season where he also played, there were 80 games that year. He played all 80 games. 48.5 minutes a night. Unbelievable. The guy actually scored more points on a nightly basis than minutes played, and he played 48 minutes a night. But look, you want to talk about back-to-backs? December 8th, 1961, played 63 minutes. I think that was a double overtime game or something like that. He scored 78 points that night. 36 rebounds or something like that. Next day, plays against the Chicago Packers, who are now the Washington Wizards. Played all 48 minutes. I think he had like a 60-point game. December 10th, that's a back-to-back-to-back. Another game against the Chicago Packers. Played all 48 minutes. December 12th, against the Pistons. Played all 48 minutes. Most of these games, by the way, are 50-point games. Some of them are 40 points. A few of them 60. They're one 78-point game. Dude was balling. December 13th, against the Boston Celtics, a back-to-back. Played all 48 minutes. Let's just go down the stretch. Look at that, 48, with the exception of that 58, which was an overtime game. So this guy's playing every minute of every goddamn game, and that's 1, 2, 3, a back-to-back-to-back, a day of rest, a back-to-back-to-back, the 12th, 13th, and 14th, a day of rest, played on the 16th, got 2 whole days of rest, which was probably amazing to him at that point in time. Played December 19th, played all 48 minutes against the Cincinnati Royals, Oscar Robertson and them boys. Played another back-to-back, December 19th and 20th, the Pistons. Got an amazing 1, 2, 3, 4 days of rest for him. 4 days of rest. Which, by the way, wasn't as much rest as we think today because they didn't have personal flights back then. So I'm not even sure they were flying back then. I guess they had to be flying. But he was probably in the team part flying commercial, which means that they was flying in these cramped planes for, a guy of his size. And he's cramped up, 7'1", sitting in a seat next to a normal sized human being, hailing a cab, having to get up 5:30 in the morning to catch the flights. And didn't have anything catered to him like these guys today. So that cut into a little bit of their rest time. But still, plays on Christmas, plays all 58 minutes of the game against the Knicks, scores 55 points in that game. They lost. Back-to-back against the Syracuse Nationals, then another back-to-back. So that's 3 games in a row. Played the Knicks again, 48 minutes. And then December 29th, played the Lakers. And it's not shown here, but he played another back-to-back. December 3rd, he played the Boston Celtics. But right here, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 13 games in a span of 21 days. So that's a game every 1.5 days or something. And you crying about playing 6 games in 7 nights? Try 13 to 21 days. And playing every minute of every night. And by the way, 13 games, they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those games. And he didn't have a super team. So miss me with all this crying this guy's doing, right? Just doing so much crying about everything, man. This dude's the biggest whiner in sports I've ever seen in my life, man. Always whining. And I was talking to somebody on X yesterday, and they made a good point. I believe that he would do this. They said, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if after he retires, all of a sudden he becomes an advocate of bringing back hand checking, bringing back, you know what I'm saying, rules that make it more difficult for players to score because he wants his record protected. And I can see him doing that because didn't he advocate recently, a couple years ago, that the schedule be shortened to 62 games? I mean, so I can see him doing that too. I can see him definitely doing that. And before I end this video, it's interesting how so many people are triggered because I said LeBron's out of my top 10. I got some personal messages from people trying to insult me. It's crazy, man. You sit up there and talk about how I'm nobody, but yet my opinion triggers you so much. Because I can care less what you think. I can care less what your favorite YouTube channel thinks. Doesn't bother me at all what they think. But it triggers you so much that I criticize your king. Because as I said before, you guys are cult members. That's what you are. You're cult members. When you go around threatening people because you don't like how they rate your God, you're a fucking cult member. Period. That's what you are. You're dangerous. Anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.